As he runs for re-election to the White House, President Obama has a bit of a problem. He can't campaign on his record. The Obama years have been a time of record unemployment, spiraling debt, and economic malaise. So as he tries to convince the American people to renew his contract, the president has only one option: lie. That's why everywhere he goes, the president embraces class warfare, alleging that it is rich, powerful interests who are keeping the country from returning to prosperity, instead of admitting that his misguided economic policies are the real culprit. The deception is bad enough, but the hypocrisy is even worse. You see, in order to convince voters that the rich are what's wrong with America, Obama has to cover up an inconvenient fact: that he himself is rich. Consider what he recently told an audience of college students in North Carolina about the first family's student loans.
We only finished paying off our student loans about 8 years ago. That wasn't that long ago.
Keep in mind that 8 years ago, the president was a U.S. Senate candidate, and while he and the First Lady may not have finished paying off their loans yet, it was hardly because they couldn't afford it. According to the Obama's tax returns, their average income during those years was about $250,000 a year. By the definition of the president's own tax proposals, that's the benchmark at which he considers people wealthy. And while we're on the subject of taxes, let's remember that President Obama has spent the last several months arguing for the Buffett rule, which would raise taxes on investment to match the taxes Americans currently pay on earned income. That policy takes its name from the fact that billionaire investor Warren Buffett pays lower taxes than his secretary, a fact that the president consistently portrays as immoral. But the White House recently admitted that the president himself pays lower taxes than his secretary. Of course, the White House doesn't see this as evidence that working people are overtaxed. It sees it as evidence that the rich are undertaxed, even though the top 10% of Americans already shoulder 70% of the income tax burden. The president's class warfare is perhaps most damaging where it affects America's children. Remember that the president has consistently attempted to kill Washington, D.C.'s Opportunity Scholarship Program, which allows predominantly poor minority students to escape the district's crumbling public schools. The hypocrisy is overwhelming. President Obama wouldn't be who he is today if it wasn't for a similarly generous scholarship program that allowed him to attend one of Hawaii's most elite private schools as a boy. But the president isn't willing to lift a finger to help D.C. children enjoy the same opportunity, including some attending the same school as his 2 young daughters. That's a metaphor for what class warfare gets us: a world in which hope is strangled and opportunity is denied. If that sounds less than appealing, take comfort. Americans will have the chance to reject that grim vision of the future at the ballot box this fall. That's this week's Freedom Minute.